High above a glittering world of crystal spires and endless cityscapes, the Grand Council of the Galactic Empire gathered. Their massive space station hung in orbit, a testament to their power and technological prowess. Inside the ornate council chamber, beings from 100 different species sat in tiered rows, all eyes fixed on the holographic display at the center. Emperor Zaxun, a towering figure with iridescent scales and multiple arms, gestured dramatically at the projection. "Behold, counselors, our scouts have discovered a new world in the outer reaches, primitive, but rich in resources. Soon, it shall be the newest jewel in our glorious empire." Murmurs of approval rippled through the assembly. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Empire had expanded unchecked across the stars. Hundreds of worlds and species had fallen under their rule, some willingly, most through irresistible force. "What defenses do these primitives possess?" asked Velocron, a member of a silicon-based race known for their strategic minds. A smaller alien, covered in fine blue fur, stepped forward. "Our scans show no significant space presence, Counselor Kron. Their technology appears to be in its infancy. They have barely taken their first steps beyond their own moon." Emperor Zaxum's mouthparts clicked in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Excellent work, Scoutmaster Fizz. This Earth will make an easy conquest. Prepare a delegation to offer them the choice of joining our empire peacefully." The Grand Council erupted in laughter. They all knew what happened to those who refused the Empire's generous offer. As the counselors filed out, discussing how they would divide Earth's resources, only Velocron remained thoughtful. "Scoutmaster," she called out, "did your survey reveal anything unusual about this species?" Fizz tilted his head, whiskers twitching. "Now that you mention it, Counselor, their information networks were vast and complex, and their entertainment media, well, it was filled with scenarios of resisting alien invasions, quite imaginative for primitives." Kron's crystalline structure shimmered with concern. "Perhaps we should advise caution, Scoutmaster. These humans might be more trouble than they appear." Fizz waved a furry paw dismissively. "Nonsense. They're centuries behind us technologically. What could they possibly do against the might of the Empire?" Weeks later, a sleek Imperial shuttle pierced Earth's atmosphere, heading for a predetermined landing site. Inside, Ambassador Groknak reviewed his instructions one last time. The massively muscled, four-armed diplomat had brought worlds into the Empire through charm and intimidation in equal measure. As the shuttle touched down in a large open area, Groknak saw the welcoming committee. Humans of various colors and sizes stood waiting, some in elaborate costumes that must denote their status. His translator implant quickly deciphered their primary languages. Stepping out onto the grass of the National Mall in Washington, D.C., Groknak spread his four arms wide. "People of Earth, I bring greetings from the Galactic Empire. We have come to offer you the privilege of joining our grand civilization." The human at the center of the group, an older male with dark skin, stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. I am Secretary General Amol Nkosi of the United Nations. We are honored by your visit, but I'm afraid we must decline your offer. Earth and humanity will remain free and independent." Groknak's yellow eyes narrowed. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. "Perhaps you misunderstand, Secretary General. This is not a request. You will join the Empire, or you will be conquered. Those are your only options." A ripple of tension went through the human delegation, but to Groknak's surprise, many of them smiled. A younger human female in a military uniform spoke up. "With all due respect, Ambassador, I suggest you take your empire and run. Humanity doesn't take kindly to threats." Groknak laughed, a booming sound that echoed across the mall. "You dare to threaten me? To threaten the Empire? You are children playing with sticks. Our warships could turn your cities to ash with the press of a button." The military woman's smile grew sharper. "Maybe. But you might find that humanity has a few surprises up its sleeve. This is your only warning, Ambassador. Leave peacefully, or face the consequences. As Groknak sputtered in rage, preparing to order his ship to call in the invasion fleet, he failed to notice the knowing looks exchanged by the human leaders. He couldn't have known about the reversed-engineered alien tech hidden in secret bunkers across the globe, or the fleet of advanced warships concealed on the far side of the moon. The Galactic Empire had made a grave mistake. They had judged humanity by its apparent technology, not by its spirit or ingenuity. They thought they were going to war against primitives. They were wrong, and they were about to learn just how wrong they were. Ambassador Groknak stomped back to his shuttle, all four of his massive arms clenched in fury. The human leaders watched him go, their faces a mix of determination and worry. As soon as the alien craft lifted off, disappearing into the cloudy sky, the Earth's representatives huddled together. "Well, that could have gone better," said General Sarah Chen, the military woman who had stood up to Groknak. "How long do you think we have before they come back with an invasion fleet?" Secretary General Nkosi shook his head. "Not long. Hours, maybe days if we're lucky. We need to activate the Omega Protocol immediately." As the leaders dispersed to their respective commands, alerts began blaring across the globe. In hidden bunkers and secret facilities, men and women rushed to their stations. Screens lit up, and communication channels crackled to life. Meanwhile, in orbit around Mars, a fleet of sleek, angular ships shimmered into view as their cloaking devices deactivated. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Yuki Tanaka watched the holographic displays with steely eyes. "Status report," she barked. Her second in command, a lanky man named Carlos, responded quickly. "All systems are green, Admiral. The Luna base reports their mass drivers are charged and ready. Ground-based defenses are coming online worldwide." Yuki nodded. "And Project Stardust?" Carlos grinned. "The nanobot swarms are primed and eager, ma'am. Those alien bastards won't know what hit them." As Earth prepared for war, Ambassador Groknak's shuttle docked with a massive Imperial warship waiting at the edge of the solar system. The ambassador stormed onto the bridge, startling the ship's captain. "Those insolent primitives refused our generous offer." Groknak bellowed. "Captain Zix, prepare your fleet. We will teach these humans the price of defiance." Captain Zix, a tall, spindly being with 4 eyes and blue-green skin, looked uncertain. "But sir, shouldn't we report back to the Emperor first? Standard protocol." Groknak cut him off with a slash of one meaty hand. "I am the Emperor's voice here. Every moment we delay is a moment those savages could be preparing. We strike now." Reluctantly, Captain Zix gave the order. Across the Imperial fleet, engines flared to life. Hundreds of warships, from nimble fighters to massive dreadnoughts, began their approach to the blue-green world that had dared to resist them. As the fleet entered the solar system, Captain Zix frowned at his sensor readings. "Ambassador, I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures from the 3rd and 4th planets. Perhaps we should investigate before." "Nonsense," Groknak interrupted again. "It's probably just some primitive attempt at defense. Press the attack." The Imperial fleet surged forward, confident in their overwhelming technological superiority. They never saw the swarm of microscopic robots that latched onto their hulls as they passed the asteroid belt, burrowing into their systems. As they approached Earth orbit, Captain Zix suddenly shouted in alarm. Multiple contacts appearing from behind the moon. Energy signatures off the charts. Before the Imperial fleet could react, lances of searing energy burst from the lunar surface, spearing through their front lines. Swarms of Earth fighters appeared from nowhere, their hulls gleaming with technology that should have been centuries beyond human capability. Aboard the Imperial flagship, chaos reigned. "How is this possible?" Groknak roared. "They're supposed to be primitives." Captain Zix frantically tried to coordinate his fleet, but ship after ship reported critical malfunctions as the human nanobots wreaked havoc on their systems. Weapons refused to fire, shields flickered and died, and engines sputtered out. As the battle raged, the humans' true capabilities became horrifyingly clear to the invaders. Reverse-engineered alien tech, combined with humanity's innovative spirit, created a defensive force beyond anything the Empire had faced before. Admiral Tanaka's voice boomed across all channels, heard by human and alien alike. "Attention, Imperial Fleet. You were warned to run. You chose not to listen. This is your final chance. Surrender now or be destroyed." In the Imperial flagship's bridge, Ambassador Groknak and Captain Zix stared at each other in shock. Their easy conquest had turned into a nightmare. As their ship shuddered under another impact, they faced a terrible choice: retreat in disgrace, or risk total annihilation at the hands of those they had dismissed as primitives. The Galactic Empire's war against humanity had begun, and already it was going very differently than they had imagined. The space around Earth blazed with explosions and weapons fire. The Imperial fleet, caught off guard by humanity's unexpected resistance, struggled to regroup. Ambassador Groknak, his earlier bravado replaced by panic, turned to Captain Zix. "We must retreat. Call for reinforcements." Groknak shouted over the alarms blaring throughout the flagship. Captain Zix's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he assessed the situation. "Impossible, Ambassador. Our long-range communications are down. Those cursed human nanobots have infected all our systems." On Earth, in the underground command center beneath the Pentagon, General Sarah Chen watched the battle unfold on massive screens. "Status report," she ordered. A young lieutenant responded. "Our forces are holding, ma'am. The Luna base mass drivers have taken out a third of their capital ships. Admiral Tanaka's fleet is engaging the rest." Chen nodded, her face grim. "And planetary defenses. Fully operational, General." But the lieutenant hesitated. "Speak freely, soldier," Chen encouraged. "Ma'am, we're detecting a group of enemy ships breaking through our lines. They're heading for the surface." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Where?" "Multiple targets, ma'am. New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, and here, Washington, D.C." The general's jaw clenched. "They're going for our capitals, trying to decapitate our leadership. Clever." She turned to her communications officer. "Warn all targeted cities. Activate ground defenses and begin evacuations immediately." As klaxons began to wail across the world's major cities, the Imperial strike force dove into Earth's atmosphere. Their ships, sleek and deadly, screamed across the sky, leaving trails of fire in their wake. In New York, panicked civilians ran for shelter as the alien craft appeared over Manhattan. The ships opened fire, their energy weapons carving glowing furrows through skyscrapers. But as buildings crumbled, something unexpected happened. From the top of the Empire State Building, a shimmering energy shield sprang to life, expanding to cover much of the island. The alien weapons splashed harmlessly against it. Similar scenes played out in other cities. In London, Big Ben's clock face split open, revealing a massive ion cannon that began picking off alien ships. Beijing's Forbidden City rose from its foundations, revealing itself to be the disguised bridge of a massive land-based battleship. Back in space, Admiral Tanaka allowed herself a small smile as reports came in from Earth. "Looks like the ground pounders are holding their own," she muttered. "Now it's our turn to take the fight to them." She keyed her comm. "All ships, this is Admiral Tanaka. Execute Operation Trojan Horse." Across the battlefield, disabled human ships suddenly came to life. The Imperial fleet had ignored them, assuming they were dead in space. Now, these ships accelerated rapidly, aimed straight at the largest enemy vessels. "Collision alert," Captain Zix yelled on the Imperial flagship's bridge. But it was too late. The human ships, packed with explosives and antimatter warheads, slammed into their targets. Blinding explosions tore through the Imperial formation, shattering ships and sending debris flying in all directions. Ambassador Groknak watched in horror as the mighty Imperial fleet disintegrated around him. This is impossible, he muttered. How could primitives do this to us? On Earth, the battle raged on. In Washington, D.C., General Chen coordinated the defense from her underground bunker. Suddenly, the ceiling shook, raining dust down on them. Report, Chen barked. Direct hit on the Pentagon. Ma'am, an aide responded. The aliens are attempting to bore through our defenses. Chen's eyes hardened. Not on my watch. Activate the HFY protocol. Outside, the ground around the Pentagon began to shift and change. The carefully manicured lawns split open, revealing massive gun emplacements. The building itself seemed to come alive, its walls flowing like liquid metal to seal breaches and sprout new weapons. As the Imperial troops began their ground assault, they found themselves facing not primitive humans with simple weapons, but an army of advanced combat mechs and soldiers in powered armor. The aliens' energy weapons were met with plasma shields and gravity manipulators that turned their own attacks against them. In orbit, Admiral Tanaka's fleet pressed their advantage, herding the remaining Imperial ships into a killing zone between Earth and its moon. Check, she said quietly, watching the enemy's options dwindle. The battle for Earth had begun in earnest. The Galactic Empire had come expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they found themselves in a desperate fight for survival against an enemy far more advanced and determined than they could have ever imagined. As the conflict raged on both ground and space, one thing became clear. Humanity was not merely defending itself. They were taking the fight to the invaders, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the battle for Earth raged on, the true extent of humanity's preparedness began to unfold. In a secret facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a group of stunned alien prisoners. These were Imperial soldiers captured during the ground assaults on Earth's cities. "Gentlemen," Dr. Rodriguez said, her voice calm but firm, "allow me to explain why your invasion was doomed from the start." She pressed a button, and a holographic display sprang to life, showing a strange disc-shaped craft. 50 years ago, this ship crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. It wasn't one of yours, but it gave us our first taste of advanced alien technology. The aliens murmured among themselves, their translator implants struggling to keep up with their rapid, worried conversation. Dr. Rodriguez continued, "Since then, we've reverse-engineered everything we could get our hands on. Crashed probes, intercepted transmissions, even garbage your ships dumped in our solar system. We knew you were out there, and we prepared." Meanwhile, in orbit, Admiral Tanaka's fleet was pushing the remaining Imperial ships back. On the bridge of her flagship, she received an urgent communication. "Admiral," a young ensign reported, "we're detecting a massive energy buildup from the moon." Tanaka's eyes widened. "It's time," she whispered. Then, louder, "All ships, clear the area around the moon. Operation Artemis is go." As the human fleet scattered, the surface of the moon began to change. Huge sections of the lunar landscape shifted and split apart, revealing an enormous cannon that dwarfed even the largest spaceships. Captain Zix, watching from the crippled Imperial flagship, couldn't believe his 4 eyes. "By the Emperor's tentacles," he gasped, "they've turned their moon into a weapon." The lunar cannon, powered by antimatter reactors hidden deep within the moon's core, fired a beam of energy so intense it lit up Earth's sky like a second sun. The beam cut through the Imperial fleet's remnants like a hot knife through butter, vaporizing ships instantly. Back on Earth, in Washington, D.C., General Chen was leading a counterattack against the alien ground forces. She piloted a massive combat mech, its humanoid form towering over buildings. "Push them back," she shouted over the comm to her troops. "Show them what happens when they mess with humanity." The human forces surged forward, their advanced weapons and armor proving more than a match for the Imperial troops. Gravity manipulators sent alien tanks flying into the air, while nanobots swarmed over their equipment, disabling it from within. In New York, a group of civilians huddled in a subway station, listening to the sounds of battle above. Suddenly, The ground shook violently. What was that? A woman cried out in fear. An old man chuckled, surprising everyone. That young lady is our ticket to victory. He pulled out a small device and pressed a button. The subway tunnel wall slid open, revealing a vast underground hangar filled with sleek, deadly-looking ships. Who wants to join the counterattack? The old man asked with a grin. Across the globe, similar scenes played out. Ordinary people revealed themselves to be trained pilots, soldiers, and engineers. Earth's entire population had been preparing for this day, turning their planet into one massive, heavily armed fortress. In space, Ambassador Groknak watched in horror as the lunar cannon decimated the once mighty Imperial fleet. How? He croaked. How could they have hidden all this? Captain Zix, his earlier caution replaced by grim acceptance, replied, They warned us, Ambassador. They told us to run. We should have listened. As if to punctuate his words, a transmission cut through the static on their ship's comm system. Admiral Tanaka's voice rang out, clear and confident. Attention, Imperial forces. Your invasion has failed. Your fleet is in ruins. But this is not the end. This is just the beginning. You came to conquer us, but instead, you've awakened a sleeping giant. Humanity is coming for you, and we're bringing the fight to your doorstep. The message ended, leaving the Imperial leaders in stunned silence. They had come expecting an easy victory over a primitive species. Instead, they had stumbled into a nightmare of their own making. As escape pods launched from the remaining Imperial ships, fleeing back to their home systems, one thing became crystal clear. The galaxy was about to change forever. Humanity was stepping onto the cosmic stage, and they were not coming in peace. The war had only just begun. 3 months after the failed invasion of Earth, the galaxy was in turmoil. News of the Empire's defeat spread like wildfire across the stars, carried by fleeing Imperial ships and intercepted communications. On countless worlds, hope began to stir among oppressed species. In a secret meeting room on the Imperial capital world of Zircon, Emperor Zaxun raged at his advisors. How could this happen? He roared, his scales flashing angry colors. One primitive world has brought us to the brink of collapse. A nervous advisor stepped forward. Your Majesty, we've received reports of uprisings on 17 worlds. The humans, they're helping them. Meanwhile, light years away, a human fleet appeared out of hyperspace near the planet Kaldor, a long subjugated world of the Empire. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of her flagship, the HSS Defiant. Status report, she commanded. Her assistant, Araya, responded promptly. Imperial defenses are at 60% capacity, Admiral. The Kaldorian resistance is engaging ground forces as planned. Tanaka nodded. Begin the attack. Remember, minimal collateral damage. We're here to liberate, not conquer. The human fleet surged forward, their ships now augmented with technology reverse-engineered from the defeated Imperial forces. Energy beams lanced out, precisely targeting military installations and weapon emplacements. On the surface of Kaldor, the locals watched in awe as their oppressors' mighty fortresses crumbled under the human assault. Verex, a resistance leader, turned to the human special forces operator beside him. I never thought I'd see this day, Verex said, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in emotion. The human, Staff Sergeant Maria Chen, grinned. That's why we're here, buddy. No one deserves to live under a tyrant's foot. As the battle raged above, and on the surface, other human ships slipped past Kaldor's defenses. These weren't warships, but vessels carrying medical supplies, food, and advanced technology. Humanity had learned from history. They knew that winning hearts and minds was just as important as winning battles. Back on Earth, in the newly established Galactic Defense Headquarters, General Sarah Chen studied a holographic map of the galaxy. Dots of light represented human fleets and liberated worlds, slowly pushing back the red mass of Imperial territory. General, a young lieutenant called out, "We're receiving a priority message from the Andromedans." Chen raised an eyebrow. The Andromedans were a highly advanced race that had long remained neutral in galactic affairs. "Put it through," she ordered. A shimmering hologram appeared, showing a being of pure energy. Its voice resonated in the room. "Humans of Earth, we have observed your actions with great interest. Unlike the Empire, you fight not for conquest, but for freedom. We wish to offer our assistance in your noble cause." Chen's heart raced. With the Andromedans as allies, the balance of power would shift dramatically. "We graciously accept," she replied, bowing slightly. As news of the Andromedan alliance spread, more worlds began to rebel against the Empire. Imperial ships found themselves outgunned and outmaneuvered at every turn. Humanity's innovative tactics, combined with their rapidly advancing technology, proved too much for the Empire's rigid strategies. On a distant mining world, a group of Imperial soldiers huddled in a bunker, listening to transmissions of yet another defeat. "They're not human," one soldier whispered fearfully. "They can't be. No species could advance this fast." His commander shook her head. "You're wrong. They're all too human. That's what makes them so dangerous. They adapt, they innovate, they never give up. The Empire, we grew complacent. Humanity has been fighting and evolving for their entire history. We just woke the most dangerous species in the galaxy." As if to punctuate her words, the bunker shook with a distant explosion. The liberation of their world had begun. In the Imperial Palace on Zircon, Emperor Zaxun received the latest reports with growing dread. Half his fleet was in ruins, a quarter of Imperial worlds were in open revolt, and the humans were advancing on all fronts. "Your Majesty," his last loyal advisor said quietly, perhaps it's time to consider negotiation." Zaxun slumped in his throne. The mighty Galactic Empire, which had stood for 10,000 years, was crumbling. And it had all started because they had underestimated one small blue world on the edge of the galaxy. As human ships appeared in the skies of more and more worlds, a new era of galactic history was dawning. Humanity had arrived on the cosmic stage, and the universe would never be the same again. The massive human fleet hung in space above Zircon, the Imperial capital world. Thousands of ships, from nimble fighters to enormous dreadnoughts, formed a blockade around the planet. On the bridge of the HSS Defiant, Admiral Tanaka stood with her hands clasped behind her back, gazing at the gleaming world below. "It all comes down to this," she murmured. Beside her, General Chen nodded grimly. "The final push. Are the ground forces ready?" Before Tanaka could answer, a communication officer called out, "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's Emperor Zaxun himself." The main view screen flickered to life, showing the alien emperor. His once proud posture was now slumped, his iridescent scales dull with stress. "Humans," Zaxun began, his voice tired. "You have won. I offer my unconditional surrender. Please, spare my people." A hush fell over the bridge. Chen and Tanaka exchanged glances. This wasn't how they had expected the final battle to begin. Tanaka stepped forward. "Emperor Zaxun, we accept your surrender. But understand this, we're not here to conquer. We're here to liberate. Your people will be free, as will all the worlds under Imperial rule." As the transmission ended, Shen turned to Tanaka. "It can't be this easy. It has to be a trap." Tanaka nodded. "Agreed. Maintain battle readiness. We're going in." Down on the surface of Zircon, not everyone was ready to accept defeat. In a hidden bunker deep beneath the Imperial Palace, Ambassador Groknak rallied the last loyal Imperial forces. "The Emperor is weak," he shouted to the assembled aliens. "We cannot let these human upstarts destroy everything we've built. We will fight to the last." As Groknak spoke, human dropships began to descend through Zircon's atmosphere. Inside one of them, Staff Sergeant Maria Chen checked her advanced exosuit one last time. "Remember," she told her squad, "we're here to minimize casualties and secure key locations. The Zirconians are victims of the Empire too." The dropships landed in the massive square before the Imperial Palace. As the human forces disembarked, they were met not with resistance, but with crowds of curious and frightened Zirconians. Suddenly, the ground shook. A massive war machine, hidden beneath the square, burst forth. It was an enormous, spider-like tank, bristling with weapons. Ambassador Groknak's voice boomed from speakers. "Death to the human invaders!" he cried as the machine opened fire. The human forces scattered, their advanced armor deflecting much of the barrage. Maria's squad took cover behind a fallen statue. "So much for a peaceful surrender," she muttered. Analysis. The AI in her suit responded promptly. The war machine's core is heavily shielded, but there's a weak point in the leg joints. Concentrated fire could disable it. Maria relayed the information to her squad and the other human forces. As one, they began to target the machine's legs with precision shots. In orbit, the space battle had begun despite the Emperor's surrender. A hidden Imperial fleet had emerged from the far side of one of Zircon's moons, engaging the human ships. Admiral Tanaka's voice rang out across the human fleet. "All ships, defensive formation Delta. They want to fight. Let's show them why that's a bad idea." The human ships moved with a coordination that seemed almost impossible, their advanced AI systems working in perfect harmony. Shields flickered as they absorbed enemy fire, while human weapons found gaps in the Imperial defenses with unerring accuracy. On the planet's surface, Maria's squad had managed to disable two of the war machine's legs. The enormous vehicle stumbled, crashing into the Imperial Palace. "Now's our chance," Maria shouted. "Push forward." The human forces surged ahead, entering the damaged palace. They fought their way through corridors of alien architecture, disabling security systems and subduing pockets of resistance. Finally, they'd reached the central chamber. There, they found Emperor Zaxun, surrounded by his last loyal guards. And behind him, controlling a bank of complex machinery, was Ambassador Groknak. "It's over, Groknak," Maria called out. "Surrender now, and we can end this without any more bloodshed." Groknak sneered, his hand hovering over a large, ominous button. "You think you've won. I'll destroy this entire planet before I let it fall to you primitives." As tension filled the room, the fate of Zircon, the Empire, and perhaps the entire galaxy hung in the balance. The final moments of this cosmic conflict were about to unfold, and the actions taken here would echo across the stars for millennia to come. In the Imperial Palace's central chamber, time seemed to stand still. Staff Sergeant Maria Chen and her squad faced off against Ambassador Groknak, whose hand hovered dangerously close to what could only be a doomsday device. "You wouldn't," Maria said, her voice steady despite the tension. "You'd die too." Groknak's eyes narrowed. Better dead than ruled by primitives. As his hand descended towards the button, several things happened at once. Emperor Zaxun, showing unexpected agility, tackled Groknak. At the same moment, Maria's suit AI, interfaced with the palace's systems, overriding the doomsday device's controls. In the ensuing chaos, Maria's team swiftly subdued both Groknak and the remaining guards. As the dust settled, Emperor Zaxun looked up at Maria from the floor, his scales shifting to a pale blue of surrender. "It's truly over, isn't it?" he asked quietly. Maria nodded, offering a hand to help him up. "Yes, Your Majesty. But this isn't an ending. It's a new beginning." Above Zircon, the space battle concluded as quickly as it had begun. The human fleet's superior technology and tactics left the remaining Imperial ships with no choice but to stand down. On the bridge of the HSS Defiant, Admiral Tanaka received the news of the ground team's success with a sigh of relief. She turned to General Chen with a small smile. "Shall we go planetside and make it official?" she asked. Hours later, in the Grand Plaza before the Imperial Palace, an unprecedented gathering took place. Representatives from hundreds of worlds, former Imperial subjects, human allies, and neutral observers, assembled to witness history in the making. Admiral Tanaka and General Chen stood on a hastily constructed stage, flanked by Emperor Zaxun and leaders of the various liberated species. The crowd fell silent as Tanaka stepped forward to address the assembled multitudes and the billions watching the broadcast across the galaxy. "Today marks the end of the Galactic Empire," she began, her voice carrying across the plaza. "But more importantly, it marks the beginning of a new era. We humans came to the galactic stage late, but we recognized a truth that had been forgotten. No species has the right to rule over another." She gestured to the diverse group of aliens on the stage. "We stand here not as conquerors, but as equals. Today, we propose the formation of a new galactic federation, where all sentient species will have a voice." A murmur of excitement rippled through the crowd. Emperor Zaxun stepped forward, his once proud posture now humble. "As my final act as emperor," he announced, his translator conveying the emotion in his voice, "I dissolve the Galactic Empire. Let us move forward together into this new age of cooperation and understanding." The plaza erupted in cheers, the sound of dozens of different species celebrating in unison. As the noise died down, General Chen took the podium. "The road ahead won't be easy," she cautioned. "Centuries of imperial rule have left scars that will take time to heal. But together, we can build a better future for all." In the days and weeks that followed, the galaxy underwent a rapid transformation. The human fleet, now joined by ships from numerous allied species, began the monumental task of peacekeeping and reconstruction across former imperial territories. On Earth, the mood was one of cautious optimism. Humanity had risen to face a threat greater than any they had known, and in doing so, had reshaped the cosmic order. Schools began teaching xenobiology alongside human history, and the first alien embassies opened in major cities around the globe. In a quiet moment aboard the Defiant, now in orbit around Earth, Admiral Tanaka stood with General Chen, looking down at their home planet. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Tanaka asked softly. Chen nodded, her eyes on the blue marble below. "We gave the galaxy a chance at real peace. It's more than we ever dreamed of when this all started." As they watched, a ship from a distant world, bearing new members of the Galactic Federation, approached Earth. It was a powerful symbol of the new era dawning across the stars. Humanity had faced the Galactic Empire and emerged victorious. But their greatest challenge and greatest adventure was just beginning. The stars, once a distant dream, were now the road to a shared future for all sentient beings. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was a good thing.